All right, we're live. What's up, man? How you doing today?
Good, man. Doing really
Good.
good.
Good, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have you here. Guys, we got another really exciting guest for today. I got Taylor from Arcadian Canine. Taylor and I have been working together for a couple years now, I think, right? Like all said and done.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how time flies, man. I remember doing our first like sales call and it wasn't a good fit like right away. You were still kind of getting some stuff like in order and then just hit you up one day and you were like, bro, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, man, we've been working together for quite some time now, and it's just been cool to see your business growing and you've hired people. And, we were just talking before this call about, how you're getting like booked out and just like managing all that stuff. So, why don't you just kind of kick it off, Taylor? Like tell everyone a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got started as a dog trainer.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, I was working some jobs that I hated, super like depressed, working 9 to 5, dreaded getting up. So I took all of my money in my savings and I put it towards a dog school out in Texas. So I went to Star Mark Academy. So I
I was
drove
gonna
out
say Star
there.
Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did like the 12 week. They got like a 12 and a 16-week program. I did
Yeah.
the 12 week. And then I just moved up to Washington with nothing. I had like a couple grand. I was sleeping on my like best friend's couch for like 2 months. So
Wow, man. Yeah,
there,
just made it happen.
yeah. I made a flyer, bought some guy's artwork on Vista or on like Fiverr, and then
Yeah.
I went to Vista Print, printed one flyer and posted it at like a dog park. And then from
Damn,
there,
dude.
just getting calls.
That's an awesome. I didn't even realize that that's like kind of how you got started. What were you doing before you went to Star Mark? What was your job?
Honestly, like I had a bunch of failed businesses. Failed not because they were a bad idea, just because I
Yeah.
had no direction.
Yeah.
I was in the cannabis industry, and then I was like in the construction, and then like I did like a dog walking company and like a
Yeah.
screen company. Um, and then I ended up just kind of giving up on business for a while, and I was delivering commercial tile to like job sites.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that sucked.
Yeah. That's a rough job, man. I'm assuming you were just like loading it up, carrying it, all that stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff was like bad on the
Yeah.
body. I was in the
Yeah.
car like most of the day too. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
not what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Dude, I remember talking to you and like we were even talking about this in the beginning where you were like, hey, I've done all these different things and you were trying to get into like the online business world and stuff like that. And I remember
Yeah.
having the conversation just like, saying, because this is the advice I give to everybody, which is like, just pick one thing and go all in on it. Cause that was like the best decision I ever made. I was just talking to a guy last night about this, how he's like, I own a DJ company and I, also have a job and I want to get into marketing and I'm also doing e-commerce or like all these different things. And I'm like, dude, you don't have the time to do all that stuff. You need to pick one thing and make that your main thing. And then once you've mastered that, then you can go and consider doing like all these other, entrepreneurial things.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely spread myself too thin because I think when we talked, I literally had a Google Ads company. Like
Yeah, yeah,
I was trying to be in that world.
yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
literally had three companies. I had like a dog food company, I had this dog training company, and then I had a Google Ads company and
Yeah.
agency. And
Yeah.
I just spread myself so thin and like burnt out. So I dropped those two and just focused on the dog training.
Yeah. Now, where are you from originally?
I'm from California.
That's
Yeah.
right. Okay, you're from California. What part of California are you from?
Sacramento, like the outskirts of Sacramento.
Oh, nice. So like Northern California.
Yeah, exactly. Northern Cal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet, man. Yeah. And so then so from there, how'd you find out about Star Mark?
Um, so I think I had quit that tile company because I hated it so much. Just one day I called in, I was like, I'm not coming back. I quit. I
Yeah.
had nothing. I had no job. I was doing DoorDash for like a good 3 weeks. And then I
Yeah.
quickly realized I am not going to be able to pay my bills doing DoorDash.
Yeah.
So I had like 15,000 in my savings. And then I went on Google and just typed in dog trainer school. And they were the first one that
Yeah.
popped up. Did
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
5 minutes of research, called them, and then like left 2 months later for Star Mark.
Yeah, dude, first off, nothing more empowering and freeing than calling a job that you absolutely hate and quitting. Like, I remember my first job I had, I was working as a dishwasher for like a deli and catering company. And I was
Oh,
I was like 17 and I was so sick of being there and stuff like that. And it just, not to trash this company or anything like that, but I was just like, it felt like bad management and stuff like that at a certain point. And they just, one day I go in and they were like, "You're supposed to be here on Saturday." And I was like, "I never work Saturdays. I've never worked Saturdays. I've been here for 2 years." And they were like, "You're on thin ice with us." And I'm like, "You know what? I'm done. I quit then." And I just remember like literally like handing over
Yeah.
my apron and walking out and being like, "Wow, that was the most like freeing thing I've ever done."
Oh, dude, that first day, the day you quit, the rest of the day, you're just flying so high.
Yeah.
Wake up the next morning and you're like,
Now what? Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
the fun stuff. I love chaos. Like I love it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool, man. That's a great story. So you went to Star Mark and then yeah, what ended up like happening that you ended up in Washington?
So I went to Star Mark. I actually, you know what? I signed up for the 16 weeks and I left early. I left after the 12 weeks and I was done. Like I didn't want to do dog training anymore. I was like, I'm done. And then I like sat on it for a little bit and then like I thought about it some more. And then I was like, all right, I have to give it a try. I dumped all this money into it. So then I typed in most dogs per capita, like the cities with the most dogs per capita. And then like I think Portland and like Austin and then like Seattle popped up. And then Seattle was
Wow, dude.
the number one. And it was only like a 12-hour drive. And I liked the weather there. So I just went for it, just drove up there. Luckily, I had a friend who had an apartment up here.
Dude, it's so funny. You are such a calculated guy, and I don't think like you would necessarily like say that about yourself, but like you are very analytical. Like you and I have like met and talked about your numbers, and you always want to understand things, and you're always trying to build better systems and processes. So like I know you don't give yourself credit for that, but you definitely are very analytical, and I think that that shines through when you look at like most people are just like, oh, I want to live in this city or something like that, or this is just where I'm from, so this is where I'm going to start my business, and they live in the middle of nowhere. And so for you, you were like, I'm kind of basing this off of a variety of factors, but one of the most important being where are there a lot of dogs?
Yeah, I feel like that's an important
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. It is. And it's like, it seems like silly even talking about it, but it's like, most people I think would overlook that. So that's just funny, man, because that's like right on brand for you, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And so you moved up to your buddy's house and you just were like, "Hey, let me crash on your couch for a couple weeks," or what happened?
Yeah, so I think it was like a month and a half, and then we ended up getting an apartment together, which worked out really well. Didn't even have the company started at that point. It was just me up in some random new city.
Yeah.
Then from there, I started like, all right, what's the logo? What's the brand? Like, what's the voice of the company? Uh,
Yeah.
then I basically tried to figure out where I wanted to base the company. And luckily, he wanted to live in the same area, so we just moved into an apartment together. And then from there, I went to like, I think I did Inkfile. I use Inkfile for everything where I just
Yeah.
super easy, just set the business up. I don't have to think about it. It's obviously
Totally.
overpriced, but definitely worth it in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was just posting flyers. One flyer did the best. So then I just kind of rode that one flyer for a while. And then in the meantime, I was doing like DoorDash every single day, 12 hours a day. And then if I could get a lesson in here or there, I would. I'd ask for reviews. Some lessons I'd do for free, just like get my name out there.
Yeah.
It just grew. And then I got a job at a pizza place, which really helped me because like the tips in the area I was in was like fantastic. So
Oh,
that
cool.
allowed me to drop the DoorDash and be a little bit more like scheduled about my time.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, dude. And just to go back to the flyer for a second, because again, like I think your story is really a testament to like if you really want something bad enough, you'll make it work. You'll find a way to make it work.
Oh, for sure.
And so many times people just think like I don't even know where to get started. And what you did is a perfect thing. It's like where do dog owners and dogs, where do they hang out? A dog park, right? It's go post flyers there, go start conversations there. Now, how did you know? Just because this is like the marketer in me, how did you know which flyer performed the best? Did you have like a way of tracking it, or like how did you just somebody just tell you, and like how'd you figure that out?
Oh, I had one design. I just had like 15 locations. And then
Oh, okay.
one location did the best.
Got you. Okay.
I didn't even A/B test flyers. I just did some like found some guy across the country, like across the world, who
Yeah.
had a good price for a flyer on
Yeah.
Fiverr.
Yeah. 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 And that's really helpful too, because I don't even think most people know what that is, Fiverr or Upwork. And I know you've gotten quite a few people like hired off there and have had good experience. So yeah, that's a really good like thing for people to be able to tap into is like go to Fiverr, go to Upwork, put out a job if you need something built for you. And, somebody can get back to you and have a really good proposal. And sometimes, I mean, Fiverr started, it's in the name, $5. Not everything's $5 anymore, but the idea is like it's super cheap way to get things done inside of your business.
Yeah, for sure. I think I paid like 15 bucks for the design and then like 25 bucks for the actual like pack of flyers and then like
Yeah.
bucks laminating them and then like an hour of my time. So it was definitely worth it.
Cool, man. And so yeah, so you were it just sounds like you were grinding out, right? You were like you had different jobs, you were trying to pick up dogs and stuff like that. And so, let's talk about like, when you and I first started talking. So what was it that like led you to kind of like, want to like hop on a call and start like, hearing more about like what we have to offer and stuff?
Yeah, you know what? So actually, like as the private lessons were building, because all I was doing was private lessons.
Yeah.
I got to the point where like I kind of like was not feeling it anymore. Not necessarily I didn't want to do it. I just wasn't getting as much traction as I wanted and I wasn't
Yeah.
making enough money. So, wasn't making enough money. So I actually went on Facebook and tried to
Yeah.
figure out how to get a dog training job. So I ended up
Okay.
getting a job with a company who does boarding. They really just give me a client and then I do the lesson.
Right. Okay. Yep.
Almost kind of like an agency.
Yeah.
So then I was working for them for like, I want to say like 8 months. And then they stopped really giving me clients because their business was kind of falling out. And then at that
Yeah.
point, I was kind of backed into a corner because I had moved out of my apartment and got a house so I could do boarding trains.
Right. Yeah.
All of my income was in somebody else's hands.
Yep.
And at that point, I realized, all right, I need to take the full leap. Otherwise, I'm going to be stuck in this weird situation forever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
then I
man.
gave you a call or texted you.
Yeah. Yeah, and we had that call, and I remember you. It was like around tax time, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. And you were like, "Hey, I need to kind of get some things in order." And then, yeah, like a couple months later, I sent you a message, and you were like, "Bro, I've been meaning to reach out to you." And like then from there, just kind of get started. And so, why don't you tell like everybody about like just your personal experience, like what it's been like working with us at Top Dog Advertising, and like how business has kind of like gone for you since you started working with us.
Yeah, I think I don't know, remember exactly how I first saw you, but we
Probably a
talked.
video like this.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I talked on the phone with you once and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I definitely need to try this. But I was like
Yeah.
super busy. So then I kind of just put it off. And then it popped up in my head. I put it on my to-do list. I'll call you. And then you
Yeah.
called me and I was like, let's do it now.
Yeah.
So then ever since then, I mean, it's been really, really smooth.
Yeah.
Obviously the first month was a huge risk because it's going to take time to get the ads going.
Yeah.
So I had saved up money for 3 months. So 3 months worth of what was it? Your service fee plus I think $1,000 in ad spend.
Right. Yeah.
So I think I had that 1,000 a month ad spend was the idea. So the first month I think was pretty solid. I don't recall exactly, but I
Yeah.
definitely got a good amount of calls. And then the second month I was like, oh shit, this is nice. And then the third month, okay, this is gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's it's interesting. It's like sometimes we start working with a company and it goes gangbusters overnight and they're like, I added 30 grand this month to my business. And it's like, cool, that's awesome. But sometimes it's like dog training. It's like the longer you have to work with a client and the account, the better the results you can get. And that's typically what we hear is, hey, this worked. I made money from this like the first month, second month, it's even better. And then it just gets better from there because we can continue to optimize the account and just, get more conversions for less money and all that good stuff. But let's talk about like, where you started and tell me a little bit more about your journey, like from when you first started working with us, like up until you are where you're at now. Because when we first started, it was you. You were doing everything, sales, answering phone calls,
Yeah.
training every single dog. You didn't have any employees. I remember talking to you about that and, encouraging you to like, hey, now might be a good time to hire some people and stuff like that. So just walk everybody through that journey and like, what that was like for you and, where you were and kind of where you are now as far as where your business is sitting.
Sure. Yeah. I think was it 2022, end of 2022?
Yeah.
I started, or maybe the beginning of 2023.
Yeah.
2022, I think the company did like 23K revenue. And then 2023, that was the main first year. I think we did 136K revenue.
So you
So
went from 22K in a year to 136K.
yes.
Wow, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah. Now, during that time, I had quit that job and then focused
Yeah.
full time on this. But that's pretty solid for like the first year of all of my focus on dog training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And so from 2023 and now 2024, like how's business looking this year?
So we're gonna do probably close to 250, 260K.
You're like doubling your well, first off, you almost like 4x, 5x your
Yeah.
business. You know what I mean? But like to make the leap from like 100K to 200K and like, and grow double your business in a year, that's crazy, man. Like what do you feel like is like the main reason for that?
Definitely the top dog advertising, the Google ads, because like I was doing 23K on a flyer and like
Yeah.
my business cards. And then I forgot about that flyer, never went and fixed it, never replaced the flyer, just jumped straight into the Google ads. And then from there,
Yeah.
it's been the sole source of leads has been all Google ads. No social media. I basically didn't even post like more than 3 posts of social media for that entire 2023. And I
Yeah,
didn't,
and there's people out there that own dog training businesses and they just endlessly post. And I'm not saying I get we get connected with so many dog trainers over social media. So social media is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but if you're not posting the right type of content and if you're posting like I always make this like joke, right? It's like if you're posting the type of content that's like Thanksgiving, you're posting like a stock image of a dog with a turkey and it says happy Thanksgiving. It's like that's not doing shit. Like that's just not moving the needle for you. It's not going to bring in leads and stuff. If you're posting more engaging content of you training dogs and really building credibility in the space, like of course that's going to work. But most people don't. What I found, most people don't want to do that. They don't feel comfortable doing that, nor do they need to do it because what you're talking about here is like $1,000 a month in ad spend, and obviously we've raised that over time when you wanted to
yeah,
grow the business. But you were hitting 10, 20K months, putting in $1,000 and making 10, 15, $20,000 in return. I mean, that right there is a crazy return on your investment.
oh, for sure. Yeah, no. Yeah, I think I was averaging like 17 a month or something like that, but that definitely in that range, 15 to 17. And then
Yeah.
for the social media thing. So what I realized was like I tried posting in 2022 and I just like zero, like nothing. And I
Yeah.
think what I realized is I need like a business first before social media comes into play. Because now,
Yeah.
now I'm doing social media, and it's just easier. I'm not stressed about it. I don't feel like I need to do it. Like I have someone
Yeah.
else doing it for me. And now it's just a cool little additive thing where someone
Yeah.
sees the ad, they can go check out the website and then check out the social media. And it just helps them a
Exactly.
bit more. It kind of gives them a little bit more of a push, but it's not going to sell them like out the gate.
Yeah, and if you're doing board and trains and you have like 5 dogs in your care, it's also yeah, I mean we have more going on. It's like less time to create content, but the content can kind of create itself a little bit more. You can just take pictures
Yeah,
and videos of dogs. Like whereas if it's just you and your dog, you're posting the same thing over and over and over. It's not that that can't work. It's just it's easier to keep it fresh when you like have all these dogs like in for a board and train.
sure. Yeah. And it's just way easier because I'll have the dogs in like a pack, and in the pack, I'll work one dog with the other dogs as a distraction. And I'm
Yeah.
just focused on one dog, but the background of multiple dogs around helps too. And I'm
Yeah.
going taking the same video one of one dog.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And so, tell everyone a little bit more about like what it was like for you, like building your team. Because I know that was something you and I talked about a couple months ago,
Yeah.
probably like 6 to 8 months ago now, I would think. But, hiring your first person and, how do I find this person and making that leap of faith? Because I remember having all the conversations with you in the beginning that everybody had, all the reservations everyone has, myself included, where you feel like, how am I going to find this person? Are they going to do a good job? How do I train them? How do I pay them? All that stuff. So looking back on it now, I'm sure it's like, oh yeah, that was kind of, all stuff that would get figured out.
Yeah.
But put yourself back in that situation. What do you remember feeling about that? And like, what were your hesitations? And, how did you kind of overcome that?
Yeah, man, it was bad hesitation. I came from a place where I was getting that job that I worked with as a dog trainer for that agency company. I
Yeah.
was getting paid 70% of every board and train and private lesson.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. I remember this.
crazy. Like you can't run a business paying people 70%. So basically what I realized, what I thought to myself is I'm never going to find anybody who is going to take less than 70% because I would never do that.
Yeah.
But what I realized once I started hiring people is talk to a lot of people who already had a company who just didn't want to deal with the business side of it. But that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to do. Like I'm more
Yeah.
passionate about the business than the actual training of dogs. So
Yeah.
I hired one person and it worked out, and they were actually more experienced than me. And that
Yeah.
was like the first thing where I was like, oh, I can hire people who are more experienced than me and more passionate about dog training than I am. And then from
Yeah.
there, I'm just hiring people left and right until I find the right people.
And how did, if you don't mind me asking, because I know that this is going to be a question that people have, how did you break down the pay? Like, what did you do? What did you land on as far as like, did you do percentages per hourly rate, flat rate per program that they do? Like, how did you work that out?
Yeah, so I talked to you. You kind of helped me down off the cliff as far as paying people 70%.
Yeah.
Uh, because I mean, like that's just way too much. You can't run a business on that.
Yeah.
And then you were recommending like 30%, and I think I ended up at 40% for a while. So that's kind of what I pay people, 40%. It's a little high, but I feel comfortable doing that.
No, dude, that's awesome, man. I
Yeah.
always recommend like so here's what I recommend to people. You have your own internal percentages of what you feel comfortable paying people, but go to your employees and don't tell them what percentage you're going to pay them. Tell them what that equals out to in dollar amounts. So it's like use simple numbers. Say the program's $1,000, right?
Yeah.
40% of that is $400, right? So like that's what you would say. It's like, hey, every time you do one of these programs, you get paid $400. That way, when you go to raise your prices, it's not necessarily the type of thing where it's like, hey, I went from 4,000 to 45, you're getting paid 50% of that. Now you get to partake in that like price increase. Because sometimes you need to do price increases in your business to be able to afford to pay people and keep people and all that stuff. But
Yes.
I think from an accounting perspective, and that's how you got to look at your payroll is what percentage of my gross revenue can I afford to pay out in payroll. And I think 30%, 40% is a really good number. As soon as you start looking at 50, 60, 70%, you start realizing I'm paying so much out. And even at 50% or 60%, you pay 60% out and you think to yourself in the beginning, okay, I get 40%, they get 60. I'm
Yeah.
not doing anything. I get 40%. This is great. But it's not really 40% because you got to market the job, you got to pay for the insurance, you got to pay for like the training tools or the food
Yeah.
or the place beds, all that stuff. And you know, at that point,
So,
all you
dude,
are is yeah, I was just gonna say all you are is one refund away from being in a really bad spot and going like completely into the red because you know you just didn't have your payroll in check.
yeah, and then like I do have one person that I do pay 50%, and I definitely made the mistake of doing the percentage thing early
Yeah.
on. So I don't do that anymore. But the
Yeah.
50%, like I literally can't, you cannot do more than 50%. Like I've run
Yeah.
like so many different numbers, like, and then on Google, it does say like highly skilled service companies can get away with doing up to 50%. But yeah, I just, as much as I would, my
Yeah.
soul wants me to, I just couldn't do more than 50%.
Yeah, well, you know, as they say, the pathway to hell was paved with good intentions. And I think
Yeah.
that that's what that's all about, where you're like, I want to pay people really well and they make 70% and they make a lot of money working for me. And but the problem is this other company that you're talking about that went under or was going under, maybe they restructured since, I don't know. But paying 70%, I would be willing to bet had a lot to do with them not doing so well, you know, when they weren't able to keep feeding you work.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's a really good point on not telling people percentages because I'm to the point where I'm raising my prices now. And those people early on that are working with percentages, they're going to see the prices go up and they're going to be like, oh, I still get 50% or I still get 40%.
Yeah.
That definitely has bitten me in the ass for sure.
You live and you learn. This is all part of running a business. You know, I made these same exact mistakes and sometimes you overpay just because you're in a position where it's only you and you're just I just need to get somebody in and then you're so grateful that they're there. And you should be grateful. Like we should all be grateful for our employees. They're people who are like choosing to help us build our business, which is I was thinking about this last night. It's a pretty amazing thing and I'm super grateful for everybody on our team. But I've had this conversation quite a few times with our with Angel, you know, our head of client success, and about other businesses where, again, it's like people set out with the good intention, and then because they couldn't actually deliver on that, then the business goes under, and now nobody has a job.
Yeah,
Nobody makes any money, you know?
yeah, and that's super important because like that's like people people depend on you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's your job as the CEO of the company to make sure that things are financially healthy so you can afford to continue to pay people, you
For
know?
sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, let's talk about like where you're at now with your employees, because we talked about, talking you off the ledge, what I mean, getting started and stuff like that. How did it feel when you first got started? Was it the type of thing where it was nerve-wracking at first, but you could totally see the path forward pretty quickly?
Oh yeah, immediately. When I once I committed and like I did an interview with somebody who I'm like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. They're cool with the pay. They're good with communication. Like this is gonna work. So after that first hire, I was sold. And then I struggled big time with Indeed too, because it's almost like you got to run Google ads. I mean, you got to run ads to get people for your business, like to hire them.
Yeah.
And that hit me in the stomach too, because I was like, damn, I gotta drop another 500 just to like bring people in, like
Yeah.
interest in the job posting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that was
Yeah, it's
another
interesting,
hurdle.
isn't it?
Yeah, that was another hurdle. So I was
Yeah.
like doing like the minimum, what do they call it? The minimum spend.
Like daily budget or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I was doing
Yeah.
the minimum. And I was just getting trash.
Yeah.
People who are line cooks and people who work in completely different industries. They clearly didn't read the
Yeah.
job posting.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
like,
Just hit
oh,
like auto apply to every job that was on their feed.
yeah. So that was a good month of just random job applications. And out of that bunch of like 40, I got one person who was like decent. So then we hired that person. And then from there, I was like, oh, I'm set. So then I upped my ad or my daily budget to like
Yeah.
25 a day. Spent like a good grand, 2 grand. And then finally landed on a bunch of people that I liked. Had to fire one person. Um, yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. And I think the focus that I have now moving forward is the communication of the employee. Because I do
Yeah.
have one employee who is a fantastic trainer, but the communication is just very poor. And it's to the point
Mm.
where I just don't want to work with this person anymore because it takes you 2 days to respond to a text message.
Yeah.
But their training is phenomenal.
That's a tricky thing. I've talked about this a little bit recently with people, which is the idea of like, if you had to pick between one or the other, would you rather take somebody who's incredibly responsive and responsible and has all the attributes that you would want to have an employee, but they're not a good dog trainer yet, and you have to train them up, or you get the good dog trainer and they have all this other baggage that comes with them?
Yeah, no, the communication and the responsibility is like miles above. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like my sole focus now.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll talk some more about that, like off camera and stuff. Because I mean, if there's something a way to salvage it, I think that would be good. But I know we've talked about this before, where it just seems like they're not willing to kind of move in the direction that you're hoping for them to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a tough one for sure.
Yeah. But so yeah, I mean, what I always think about with hiring people is it's funny. In the beginning, it feels like I can't imagine a world in which I can find somebody and have someone working for me and I'm paying them and all this stuff. And then once you get them hired, it becomes about I can't imagine a world in which I don't have these people and I need to go back to doing this all myself. Like you ever think about that? Like if you had to just, tomorrow start doing everything yourself again, you'd be like, I don't
I
want to
don't
do
want to
this
think
anymore.
about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, but I think that what you're saying about, having to promote the job posting on Indeed, I think that would stop a lot of people from doing it. They're like, wait a second, I got to pay for this and I got to market this.
Yeah.
You know, Getting good talent in your business is a skill set and you got to go out and find it. And it's not like people are just going to fall right into your lap. And if that means I got to pay 500, 1,000, $2,000 to find somebody, but that person over the next year is going to help me add $100,000 to my business, you can't look at it in terms of like, what is the expense? You got to look at it in terms of the upside, which is clearly like what you did and why you ended up doing it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, almost as important as the Google ads because now I can breathe, right? Like
Yeah.
I can actually work on the business instead of just melting with overworking myself.
Yeah, totally. Cool, man. Well, let's talk about this for a second. Let's talk about your sales process. I know that that's something that you do really well. We were just talking about, when you get in front of people for like in-person consultations, you guys close really, really well. And you've been testing out Zoom consultations, which you're still working through the kinks of that, and that's still going to be something that's going to be, part of the business plan long term. But do me a favor, just because I know this is a big part of stuff that people struggle with. Tell everyone a little bit about how you sell your clients. Like from the time that the lead first comes in all the way through the time that you're getting them to, process a payment with you. Like how does that all work out for you?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I would say I have a lot of work to do on that, a lot of improvement to do. My sales skills is like I don't have I came from zero sales background. I have no sales skills up and to the point of the skills that I've built in the past
Yeah.
year. But the sales process is basically the lead comes in, whether it's an email, a phone call, a
Yep.
social media message. And then from there, I set up a quick phone call because I want to talk to them on the phone. I don't want to have to like back and forth on text because they get bored and then I never speak to them ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Go on to the next thing. So I try to get them on the phone as soon as possible and then book a consult. I like in-person consults better. I feel like I do better with that. Uh,
Yeah.
but I do see the value in the video consult, so I am definitely trying to master that.
Yeah.
So as far as like right now goes, or up until this point, it's basically been getting them on the phone for like 3, 5 minutes, setting a free in-person consultation, and then from there I'll go to the consultation, and then we'll do the consult and then sell a package, and then from there. But as far as the consult goes, like my sales skills is really just being super friendly,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
trying
a
to
good
get
it's a good approach. People like friendly people.
yeah, and I feel like I've done really well with just being super like easy to talk to. I do tend to focus on a lot of the like I know a lot of people say they focus just talking about anything and just relationships and different little aspects of life. But I kind of like just jump in, like get as much information about the dog, and then from there kind of go through my whole package thing. So there's a lot of room for improvement on my end as far as like the sales like techniques and stuff.
Well, let's talk about that though for a second. You saying that you're just very friendly with people. That I think that's a really big part of it and something that can often get overlooked. Because I think if you are a really good, okay, let's take like the used car salesman as the example, because that's what I think a lot of people think of when they think of like salespeople. I think that that's where the people get turned off is somebody who's really fast talking and really knows their stuff and can spit out facts really quick and handle objections on the spot. I don't think that person, at least not when it comes to dog training, does as well as the person who maybe isn't as crisp as that, but is more genuine and very friendly, fun to be around, makes you feel comfortable. Like I think that when you think about the used car salesman, you kind of get like, you kind of get like shivers up your spine. Like I don't want to have to deal with somebody like that. And I think people think they need to be like that to be a good salesperson, when in reality, what I always think about when it comes to sales is relational over transactional, and it's all about relationship building. And so it seems like that's something you do extremely well. So tell me a little bit more about that. When you say you're friendly with people, what does that mean? Like, how do you kind of like let that come out during the in-person consults?
Sure, yeah. So like the first 5 minutes is just like pleasantries, like talking to them, like, hey, how's your day going? Oh, cool house. Like I always try to find something to compliment
Yeah.
them on their house or their dog or whatnot. Um, and then from there, I tend to go straight into as much information about the dog as I can. And I'm
Hmm.
not even trying to be nice or friendly. I am because it's just natural for me. But like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's 20 minutes of gathering information. And then from there, I do try to do like a quick demo. I try to figure out like what's an easy thing that I could get a lot of progress with like immediately, and then
Yep.
kind of demonstrate that with the dog. And then as I'm doing that, I'm kind of just like, I don't know, like cracking jokes or like just finding something to laugh about or like
Yeah.
smile about. Um, and then after I kind of demonstrate, then I kind of just go over the different packages. And then I don't really even have a system for navigating objections. I kind of
Yeah.
just, and I need to get better at this, but I basically just be like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem at all. Just think it over, and get back to me if you have any questions. And then
Yeah.
after the consult, there's 2 days that pass, and then they get like an automation that says, hey, just checking in, wondering if you have any questions or something like that.
Yeah. Clearly it's working, right? Because you told me like before you're like, we signed up like 5 new board and trains this week or something like that, right?
Yeah, and that was me not going to a single consult. That was the other trainers.
Yeah. Dude, that's incredible. Yeah. Yeah. I
Absolutely.
mean, I've it's interesting. I've even noticed this in the digital marketing world where a couple years ago I joined a community and it was like very high pressure sales
Mhm.
and why don't you want to buy today? That type of thing. And then I ended up buying into the program. It was great. It was, really transformative for my business. I just joined a different community a couple weeks ago and I had a couple different sales calls and with just different people that I was kind of like thinking about working with and stuff like that. And both of them both kind of said the same thing to me, which was like, "Hey, I'm not going to force you to make a decision right now." And I just thought that was really interesting. And it feels like maybe it could just be coincidental, but I definitely feel like there is maybe like a shift in maybe just the I don't know, whatever you would call it, like the cultural zeitgeist or something like that when it comes to sales, where it's like, don't try and force somebody to do something that they don't want to do, you know?
Yeah, you know,
Because, if you do that and they still don't buy, there's effectively no chance they come back. Whereas if you're like, you give it your best shot on the spot, I'm not saying don't handle objections, try your best. If they say, hey, I need to think about it, just say, like, hey, I totally understand. If you don't mind me asking, just because I'm curious, like I'm here right now. What is it that you need to think about just so I can see if I can give you any more information? And that you might be able to overcome it on the spot. But if someone really needs to think about it and you need to walk away, don't spoil it for a later date by just being an asshole?
oh,
And
for
so I
sure.
think that's something like you're really good at. And it sounds like a lot of people do come back to you to end up like working with you guys. They just do legitimately need to kind of process that information before they move forward with you.
Sure, yeah, no, for sure. And then I will work with them too. Like if they really want to do it and they just literally can't afford it, I will have like a secondary option. We'll be like, okay, well, we can do like 10% off for the first package, or I have like like I will come down a little bit for them because
Yeah.
I want them to help their dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, you gotta be careful with that. You don't want to do, oh, I'll take 50% off.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, you got to be willing to help people and cut people a deal. I mean, if it's like $200 off, $500 off, depending on the time of year, that's the type of thing on a $4,500 program that gets them across the finish line. It's like, why not? Okay, cool. I lost a little, you saved a little bit of money. I still made 4 grand. It's a win-win.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, no, and the other thing too is we do payment plans too. And
Yeah.
I don't think I only had one person not pay me. And it was just off of a single lesson that I worked with them and I should have basically fired them as a customer, but it was early on and I was
Yeah.
desperate. So, but other than that one person who didn't pay me $200, I haven't had a single issue.
Dude, I love that you just said that because that's the objection that I hear from a lot of people we start working with in the beginning or trainers that, don't work with us, but I talk to that have those concerns of like, what if people don't pay? It's like
Yeah.
most people in life are not looking to not pay you. Most people are not looking to get their dog trained and then legitimately not pay the bill. It's just I very rarely see that, and if someone does that, don't let that person ruin it for everybody else and ruin it for your business. Because even if you make $200,000 a year and you have one person who doesn't pay their bill, it's like okay, they got over on me, and now I made $196,000 instead of 200 grand. I still have a fantastic business.
For sure. And if there was like a bunch of people not paying me, then I'll look at my systems and be like, what am I doing wrong here? Like I might be taking on the wrong people. But yeah, as long
Yeah.
as I'm not having like some crazy amount of issues with it, I'm totally happy doing payment plans for people.
Yeah, totally, man. Well, dude, you got a fantastic business. I mean, I don't want to keep you here all day. I know we said we'll go to like 10 or 12:30. You're 3 hours behind me. So let's talk about this. Like just to kind of wrap up, I think the question I always like to finish up with is if you put yourself back in the shoes that you were in when you first started or right before you started working with us, what is the advice that you would give to somebody else who is currently in that exact same situation that you were in then?
Definitely worth taking the risk for sure. I would save up 3 months of whatever ad spend or services that you need and try something different than you're currently doing. Because if
Yeah.
stuck making $20,000 a year, $50,000 a year, it's time for a change. And like I'm definitely the type to take risks. I mean, more so than the average person. I take a lot of risks, a lot of failures, but some fantastic successes as well. So
Yeah,
Definitely
man.
the risk of hiring people, like absolutely.
Yeah.
And like no brainer for the Google ads. Like you definitely gotta try that if you haven't.
Yeah. Appreciate that, man. Yeah. And dude, it's been awesome to watch you grow this thing. And I know we're just getting started. Like there's so many different cool things that are going to be happening here in the future with your business and stuff like that. And so we'll have to do another video in the future and check in and see where you're at. Cause I think another part of this for you is, we started off this before the recording this call, you're sitting around 20 to 30K a month on average, just doing the math, for
Mhm.
your business for the year. But you've had some months where you've done 50K. And I'm
Yeah.
sure there's other times where there's just limitations on what you guys can do as far as availability. You didn't have all these people the entire year to help you take on all these dogs. So I really think 2025 is going to be crazy for you, man. And I think you're going to find yourself like hiring like another person to try and keep up with everything.
Yeah, man. The goal is to double what I did this year. So,
Yeah. All right. We
yeah.
have our goal. I
500.
have my goal now.
Yeah. 500,000 by the end of 2025.
Yeah. I love it, dude. 500,000. That's pretty crazy.
Uh,
Yeah. Awesome, man. All right, dude. Well, we'll wrap up for here. Do me a favor. You hang on the call. That way we can like wrap up together. But I'm going to end it here, and I'll just leave with this. Like, if you guys are looking to, run Google Ads in your business, or you're looking for any sort of help, make sure just to reach out. Send me a DM on Facebook. Leave a comment down below this video if you have any questions for myself or Taylor. I'm sure you'd be willing to hop in and answer a question for somebody.
oh yeah.
And yeah, man. Just to kind of wrap up, is there anything else you want to plug, or just to kind of end the interview with, or anything?
No, man, just it's been a pleasure working with you guys, and I'm like super excited to see what the future has to hold.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you, brother. All right, guys. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys watching this, and I'll see you guys all very soon in the next one. See you guys.